In the scorching heat of the Arizona desert, where temperatures reach deadly levels and survival seems impossible, a tiny German Shepherd puppy was about to prove that courage knows no size. Abandoned by heartless humans and left to die under the merciless sun, this 8-week-old puppy named Rex would embark on an incredible 16-mile journey that would not only save his own life but lead to a discovery so extraordinary that it would change everything for an entire family. This is the true story of survival, determination, and a miracle that no one saw coming. Get ready for a tale that will restore your faith in the unbreakable spirit of animals and the power of never giving up, no matter how impossible the odds may seem. The Arizona sun was merciless on that scorching July morning in 2023, with temperatures already climbing toward 115 degrees Fahrenheit by 9 a.m. In the vast expanse of the Sonoran Desert, 20 miles outside of Phoenix, a heartbreaking scene was unfolding that would test the limits of survival and courage. Rex, an 8-week-old German Shepherd puppy with distinctive black and tan markings, found himself alone in the most hostile environment imaginable. His oversized ears, still floppy with youth, twitched at every desert sound as he tried to understand why the humans he had trusted had driven away, leaving him beside an empty water bottle and a torn cardboard box that had been his prison during the journey to this desolate place. The puppy's dark brown eyes, still holding the innocence of extreme youth, scanned the endless landscape of saguaro cacti, creosote bushes, and red rock formations that stretched to the horizon in every direction. At barely 8 pounds, Rex was woefully unprepared for the challenges that lay ahead, yet something deep within his German Shepherd genetics, an ancestral memory of determination and loyalty, refused to let him simply lie down and accept defeat. The previous night had been a nightmare. Rex had been born on a backyard breeding operation run by Maria Gonzalez, a woman more interested in quick profits than proper animal care. When several puppies in Rex's litter developed health issues that would require expensive veterinary treatment, Maria made the cruel decision to dispose of the problem animals rather than invest in their care. Rex had been the strongest of his siblings, showing the intelligence and alertness characteristic of his breed even at such a young age. But when a potential buyer noticed a slight limp in his left hind leg, likely from overcrowded conditions in his early weeks, Maria decided he was no longer worth keeping. Under cover of darkness, she had loaded Rex into a cardboard box and driven deep into the desert. "This is where unwanted dogs belong," she had muttered as she dumped him beside a rarely used dirt road, throwing the empty water bottle after him in a mockery of provision for survival. Now, as the sun climbed higher and the desert began its daily transformation into a furnace, Rex faced a choice that would define his destiny. He could remain where he was, waiting for death to claim him as Maria had intended, or he could trust the instincts that thousands of years of German Shepherd breeding had embedded in his DNA. The puppy's first attempt to move nearly ended in disaster. His small paws, designed for grassy yards and soft surfaces, immediately encountered the sharp spines of a barrel cactus. The pain was excruciating, but it also triggered something profound within Rex, a determination that surprised even his young mind. Standing on his hind legs, Rex surveyed the landscape with the analytical mindset that would one day make him an exceptional working dog. To the north, the mountains shimmered in the heat haze. To the south, more endless desert. But to the east, something caught his attention, what appeared to be a line of green vegetation, suggesting the presence of water. With no understanding of distance or the dangers that awaited him, Rex made his decision. He would walk toward that green line. He would find help. He would survive. As he took his first tentative steps into the vast desert, leaving behind the cardboard box and empty water bottle that represented humanity's cruelty, Rex began a journey that would test every fiber of his being. But deep in his puppy heart, he carried something that Maria Gonzalez could never. The desert floor felt like walking on broken glass beneath Rex's tender paw pads as he began his impossible journey. Each step sent sharp stones and cactus spines into his soft puppy feet, but the 8-week-old German Shepherd pressed forward with a determination that seemed to come from somewhere deeper than his young experience could explain. By midday, the temperature had soared past 120 degrees, and the asphalt of the distant highway created waves of heat that made the landscape dance like a mirage. Rex had never experienced such brutal conditions, but his thick double coat, designed for the cooler climates of Germany where his breed originated, was becoming a liability in the extreme heat. The puppy's water needs were critical. At his age and size, dehydration could claim his life within hours under these conditions. But Rex possessed something that would prove crucial to his survival, an acute sense of smell that even at 8 weeks old was already 40 times more sensitive than a human's. Following his nose, Rex detected the faint scent of moisture carried on the desert wind. It led him away from the dirt road where he had been abandoned and deeper into the wilderness, but his instincts told him it was his only chance. Step by painful step, he followed the scent trail that promised life-giving water. The first major obstacle came in the form of a dry wash, a steep-sided gully carved by flash floods during rare desert storms. For a full-grown dog, it would have been a minor inconvenience. For Rex, it was a canyon that seemed impossible to cross. But the water scent was stronger on the other side, and giving up was simply not in his nature. Using his oversized puppy paws for traction, Rex scrambled down one side of the wash, tumbling and sliding on the loose gravel. At the bottom, he rested briefly in the small amount of shade provided by the overhanging banks, his pink tongue lolling as he panted heavily in the suffocating heat. The climb up the other side was even more challenging. Several times Rex lost his footing and slid backward, his claws scraping against the rocky surface as he fought for purchase. But each time he fell, he got up and tried again, driven by an inner voice that seemed to whisper, "Never quit," in a language older than words. When he finally reached the top of the wash, Rex found his first reward, a tiny seepage spring hidden in the shade of a large boulder. The water was barely more than a trickle, but to the desperate puppy, it was salvation. He lapped eagerly at the precious moisture, feeling his energy return as the cool waters soothed his parched throat. But Rex's celebration was short-lived. As he rested beside the spring, the sound of rustling in nearby brush made his oversized ears swivel with alarm. A desert diamondback rattlesnake, seeking the same shade and water source, emerged from behind the boulder with a distinctive warning sound that had protected its kind for millennia. The confrontation lasted only seconds, but it demonstrated the intelligence that would serve Rex throughout his journey. Instead of approaching the snake or fleeing in panic, the puppy slowly backed away, maintaining eye contact with the venomous reptile until he was at a safe distance. Only then did he turn and continue his eastward trek. As the sun began its descent toward the western horizon, Rex had covered nearly 4 miles, an extraordinary distance for a puppy of his age and size. His paws were bloody, his coat was matted with desert dust, and exhaustion weighed heavily on his small frame. But something remarkable was happening. With each mile, Rex was growing stronger, more confident, The second day of Rex's journey began before dawn, when the desert air was still cool enough to travel safely. The 8-week-old German Shepherd puppy had spent the night huddled between 2 large rocks, shivering despite his thick coat as the temperature dropped from the day's brutal heat to the desert's surprising chill. Rex's paws were now severely damaged from the rough terrain, leaving small bloody prints on the rocks behind him. But the puppy had adapted with the remarkable resilience of youth, learning to step more carefully and seek out softer ground wherever possible. His water situation remained critical. The small seepage spring had been his only source of moisture since beginning his journey. As the sun crested the eastern mountains, painting the desert in shades of gold and crimson, Rex encountered his first major predator. A coyote, lean and opportunistic, had picked up the scent of blood from the puppy's wounded feet and was following his trail with the patient hunger of a natural hunter. Rex sensed the danger before he saw it, his German Shepherd instincts alerting him to the presence of a threat. When he finally spotted the coyote shadowing him from about 50 yards away, his puppy mind faced a challenge that would determine whether he lived or died. The confrontation came at a narrow passage between 2 large boulder formations. The coyote, confident in its advantage, moved to block Rex's path forward. For several tense minutes, predator and puppy faced each other in the growing heat of the morning sun. What happened next would have surprised any animal behaviorist. Instead of cowering or fleeing, Rex drew upon genetic programming that stretched back to his breed's origins as working dogs. He stood his ground, making himself appear as large as possible, and let out a series of sharp, commanding barks that echoed off the canyon walls. The sound was surprisingly authoritative for such a young animal, carrying overtones of the powerful guard dog Rex would one day become. The coyote, accustomed to easy prey, found itself facing something unexpected. A small predator that refused to act like prey. After a tense standoff, the coyote made its decision. Rather than risk injury fighting an unknown quantity, it faded back into the desert, leaving Rex to continue his journey. The puppy had won his first battle, but the victory came at a cost. The confrontation had taken precious energy he could ill afford to lose. As the day progressed and temperatures soared past 118 degrees, Rex faced an even deadlier enemy, heat exhaustion. His thick coat, combined with his small size and high surface area to body weight ratio, made him extremely vulnerable to hypothermia. By noon, he was staggering, his tongue hanging nearly to the ground as he panted desperately. It was then that Rex made a discovery that would save his life. Following the scent of moisture, he found a saguaro cactus that had been damaged by lightning, creating a small hollow that collected and held rainwater from the last storm. The water was warm and slightly alkaline, but it was life itself to the desperate puppy. As Rex drank greedily from the natural cistern, something extraordinary happened. A desert bighorn sheep, also seeking water, approached the cactus. These magnificent animals, perfectly adapted to the harsh environment, were rare and usually avoided any contact with other species. But this old ram seemed to recognize something in the struggling puppy. For several minutes, the unlikely pair shared the water source in peaceful coexistence. When the sheep finally moved away, it headed in the same direction Rex had been traveling, east. On the third day of his incredible journey, Rex encountered something that would change everything. The German Shepherd puppy, now showing the physical toll of his desert ordeal with matted fur, bloodied paws, and a slight stumble in his gait, had followed the bighorn sheep's trail to a small oasis hidden in a narrow canyon. The oasis was a miracle in the hostile landscape, a natural spring surrounded by palm trees and green vegetation that seemed impossible in this barren environment. But as Rex approached the life-giving water, he heard something that made his oversized ears perk up with intense interest: human voices. Hidden behind a boulder, Rex observed the most surprising scene of his young life. An elderly man, probably in his 70s, was sitting beside the spring with his leg clearly broken and splinted with makeshift materials. Beside him sat a young girl, perhaps 8 years old, who was crying softly as she tried to comfort the injured man. These were Dr. James Harrison, a retired pediatrician from Scottsdale, and his granddaughter Emma, who had been on a hiking expedition when Dr. Harrison fell from a ledge and suffered a compound fracture of his left tibia. Their emergency beacon had malfunctioned, their cell phones had no signal, and they had been stranded at the oasis for 2 days, hoping against hope that someone would find them. "Grandpa, I'm scared," Emma whispered, her blue eyes filled with tears as she looked at her grandfather's pale face. "What if nobody comes?" Dr. Harrison, fighting through pain and mounting infection from his injury, tried to maintain a brave face for his granddaughter. "Someone will come, sweetheart. We just have to keep believing." It was at that moment that Rex made his decision. Despite everything he had endured, despite his own desperate need for water and rest, the puppy's protective instincts overrode his survival needs. He emerged from behind the boulder and slowly approached the two stranded humans. Emma's first reaction was fear. After all, Rex was dirty, blood-matted, and looked more like a wild animal than a domesticated dog. But Dr. Harrison, with decades of experience reading both human and animal behavior, immediately recognized what he was seeing. "Emma," he said softly, "look at his eyes. This puppy isn't wild, he's been through something terrible, but he's choosing to trust us." Rex's approach was careful but determined. When he reached the edge of the spring, he drank deeply while keeping his eyes on the humans, assessing their intentions. What he saw in their faces, kindness, hope, and desperate need, resonated with something deep in his German Shepherd soul. Dr. Harrison, despite his own pain, began speaking to Rex in the gentle tones he had once used with frightened young patients. "Easy boy, we're not going to hurt you. In fact, I think we might be able to help each other." The breakthrough came when Emma, forgetting her fear, slowly extended her small hand toward Rex. The puppy, remembering the kindness of touch from his earliest days before the cruelty began, allowed her to stroke his head. The contact was electric, a connection between two vulnerable beings who had found each other in the vast emptiness of the desert. "Grandpa," Emma said with sudden excitement, "he's not just any dog. Look at him, he's smart. Really smart. And he found us." Dr. Harrison studied Rex with his trained physician's eye, noting the puppy's alertness, the intelligence in his dark eyes, and most importantly, his remarkable condition considering what must have been an ordeal of survival in the desert. "Emma," he said slowly, "I think this puppy might be our miracle. But more than that, I think we might be his." As if understanding the significance of the moment, Rex settled beside Emma, finally allowing exhaustion to claim him while keeping what developed over the next 2 days at the desert oasis was nothing short of miraculous. Rex, despite his own desperate condition, seemed to understand that his survival was now linked to helping the injured Dr. Harrison and frightened Emma. The German Shepherd puppy, operating on instincts that went beyond his 8 weeks of life, began displaying behaviors that amazed the stranded grandfather and granddaughter. Dr. Harrison's medical condition was deteriorating rapidly. The compound fracture in his leg showed signs of serious infection, and his fever was climbing to dangerous levels. Without immediate medical intervention, Emma might soon find herself alone in the desert with her dying grandfather. It was Rex who provided the solution, though none of them understood it at first. On their second day together, Rex began exhibiting strange behavior. He would drink from the spring, then walk to the edge of the oasis and bark in a specific pattern. 3 short barks, followed by a long howl, repeated every few minutes. Then he would return to Emma's side as if checking to make sure she was safe, before repeating the sequence. "He's trying to tell us something," Emma said, watching Rex with the intuitive understanding that children often have with animals. "Grandpa, I think he knows something we don't." Dr. Harrison, fighting through his fever-induced confusion, began to pay closer attention to Rex's behavior. The puppy was always facing the same direction when he barked, northwest toward a particular gap in the canyon walls. And his vocalizations had a quality that seemed designed to carry over long distances. "Emma," Dr. Harrison said with sudden clarity, "I think he's calling for help. But not just any help, he knows where help might come from." The revelation proved accurate in the most extraordinary way. Rex's persistent calling was being heard by a search and rescue team that had been looking for Dr. Harrison and Emma for 3 days. The team, led by experienced tracker Maria Santos, had been following false leads and dead ends until they heard the distinctive barking echoing through the canyon system. "That's not a coyote or a wild dog," Maria told her team as they triangulated the sound. "That's a domestic dog and it's calling in a pattern. Someone trained that animal or it's incredibly intelligent." Rex's barking guided the rescue team directly to the hidden oasis, cutting through miles of confusing terrain that could have taken days to search. When the team finally rappelled into the canyon and found the stranded pair, they were amazed to discover the small German Shepherd puppy who had served as their beacon. "This puppy saved your lives," Maria told Dr. Harrison as the team prepared him for medical evacuation. "Without his calling, we might never have found this place." But the most unbelievable part of the story was yet to be revealed. As the paramedics worked on Dr. Harrison's leg, Emma stayed close to Rex, unwilling to be separated from the puppy who had become her protector and friend. It was then that Maria Santos made a connection that would shock everyone involved. "Dr. Harrison," she said slowly, "what did you say your last name was?" "Harrison. James Harrison. Why do you ask?" Maria's face went pale as she looked at Rex's distinctive markings and intelligent eyes. "Doctor, 3 days ago, we got a report about a puppy theft from a breeding facility outside Phoenix. The helicopter ride to Phoenix General Hospital was when the most unbelievable part of Rex's story began to unfold. As Dr. Harrison received emergency medical treatment and Emma clutched the German Shepherd puppy who had saved their lives, search and rescue coordinator Maria Santos was making phone calls that would reveal a truth so extraordinary it defied belief. The first call was to the Phoenix Police Department's Animal Cruelty Division, where Detective Linda Rodriguez had been investigating the reported theft of a German Shepherd puppy from Maria Gonzalez's breeding operation. What Detective Rodriguez discovered when she interviewed Gonzalez under pressure was a confession that changed everything. She admitted to abandoning the puppy in the desert, Detective Rodriguez told Maria Santos over the helicopter's communication system. "But here's the part that's going to blow your mind. She dumped that puppy exactly 16.3 miles from where you found Dr. Harrison and Emma." The implications were staggering. Rex, an 8-week-old puppy with no knowledge of the desert or human geography, had somehow navigated directly to the one spot where his help was desperately needed. But the story got even more incredible when Dr. Harrison's medical records revealed another stunning connection. Emma Harrison wasn't just Dr. Harrison's granddaughter. She was a patient he had been treating for severe anxiety and depression following her parents' death in a car accident 6 months earlier. The trauma had left her unable to connect with anyone, including her loving grandfather who had taken custody of her. Child psychologists had recommended animal therapy, but Emma had shown no interest in any animal they had introduced. "The odds of this puppy finding them are astronomical," explained Dr. Sarah Chin, an animal behaviorist consulted by the hospital. But what's even more remarkable is the immediate bond he formed with Emma. German Shepherds are known for their protective instincts and ability to sense human emotions, but this level of intuitive connection in such a young puppy is unprecedented. The medical team treating Dr. Harrison discovered another piece of the puzzle. His compound fracture, which had become severely infected during their ordeal, required immediate surgery that wouldn't have been possible if they had been found even 12 hours later. Rex's guidance to the rescue team had literally saved Dr. Harrison's life with hours to spare. But the most extraordinary revelation came from Emma herself as she recovered in the hospital, with Rex never leaving her side despite hospital policies. The 8-year-old girl, who hadn't spoken more than a few words to anyone since her parents' death, began talking freely for the first time in months, but only to Rex. Child psychologist Dr. Michael Torres, who had been working with Emma since the accident, was amazed by the transformation. "She's exhibiting behaviors we haven't seen since before her trauma," he explained to Dr. Harrison. "This puppy has somehow broken through barriers that we've been trying to address for months." The hospital's social worker, Janet Williams, discovered the final piece of the incredible puzzle when she researched the legal status of Rex's ownership. Maria Gonzalez, facing animal cruelty charges and a massive investigation into her breeding operation, had voluntarily surrendered all rights to the puppy. Rex was legally free to be adopted. "Dr. Harrison," Janet explained, "if you wanted to adopt Rex, there would be no legal obstacles. In fact, given what this puppy has done for your family, I think we could expedite the process." The decision was never really in doubt. Rex had walked 16 miles through a hostile desert, guided a rescue team to save their lives, and broken through Emma's emotional trauma with an intuitive understanding that defied explanation. He had proven that sometimes miracles come in the form of a small, determined puppy who refuses to give up. "We're not adopting Rex," Dr. Harrison told Janet with tears in his eyes as he watched Emma sleeping peacefully with the puppy curled protectively against her side. "Rex adopted us." 6 months after Rex's incredible desert journey, the Harrison family was transformed in ways that no one could have predicted. The small German Shepherd puppy who had walked 16 miles to save 2 lives had grown into a magnificent young dog whose intelligence and protective instincts continued to amaze everyone who met him. Emma's recovery was nothing short of miraculous. The girl who had been trapped in silence and depression since her parents' death was now thriving, laughing, and fully engaged with life again. Child psychologist Dr. Michael Torres documented her progress as one of the most remarkable cases of animal-assisted healing he had ever witnessed. Rex didn't just become Emma's companion, Dr. Torres explained during a follow-up session. He became her anchor to the world, her reminder that love and loyalty still exist even after tremendous loss. The bond they formed in that desert oasis has become the foundation for her entire emotional recovery. Dr. Harrison, whose leg had healed completely thanks to the timely rescue Rex had made possible, had made a life-changing decision. At 72 years old, he had come out of retirement to establish the Harrison Foundation for Animal-Assisted Therapy, using his medical expertise and Rex's story to help other trauma victims connect with specially trained animals. "Rex taught me that healing doesn't always come from medicine," Dr. Harrison explained to a gathering of medical professionals and animal behaviorists. "Sometimes it comes from the pure, unconditional love of an animal who chooses to trust us despite every reason not to." The Foundation's first major project was partnering with desert rescue organizations to establish a network of emergency response animals trained to locate lost hikers and guide rescue teams to their locations. Rex, despite his youth, showed a natural aptitude for this work that suggested his desert navigation abilities were more than just luck. Maria Santos, the search and rescue coordinator who had found him, became Rex's primary trainer in advanced search and rescue techniques. "I've worked with search dogs for 15 years, she said, "and I've never seen natural instincts like Rex possesses. He doesn't just find people, he seems to understand their emotional state and responds accordingly." The criminal case against Maria Gonzalez had resulted in felony animal cruelty convictions and the shutdown of her illegal breeding operation. The other puppies from Rex's litter who had survived Gonzalez's neglect were all successfully rehabilitated and placed in loving homes. Detective Linda Rodriguez made sure that Rex's story became part of the evidence that led to stronger animal protection laws in Arizona. But perhaps the most remarkable development was how Rex's story had inspired others. The miracle puppy of the desert, as he became known in national media coverage, received thousands of letters from families dealing with their own traumas. Many of them were inspired to explore animal therapy as part of their healing process. Emma, now 9 years old and thriving in school, had become an eloquent advocate for animal rescue organizations. "Rex saved my grandpa and me," she told a television interviewer, "but we saved him too. When people hurt animals, they don't understand that they're throwing away miracles." Rex himself seemed to understand his special role in the world. Now weighing 60 pounds and standing proud with the noble bearing characteristic of his breed, he had never lost the gentle patience that made him perfect for working with traumatized children. Yet he retained the incredible determination and intelligence that had carried him through 16 miles of desert to find the people who needed him most. As the sun set over the same Arizona desert where Rex had begun his impossible journey, the young German Shepherd stood in the backyard of his new home, watching over Emma as she played. In his intelligent brown eyes was the same unwavering determination that had driven him to survive, but now it was focused on a new mission, protecting and healing the family that had become his destiny. If Rex's incredible 16-mile journey touched your heart, remember that thousands of animals face abandonment and cruelty every day. This brave German Shepherd puppy proved that love, determination, and an unbreakable spirit can overcome impossible odds and create miracles. Subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories of animal courage and the life-changing bonds between humans and their four-legged heroes. Like this video if you believe that every animal deserves a chance at love and safety, and share it with someone who needs to be reminded that miracles can come in the smallest packages. Have you ever experienced an incredible bond with an animal that changed your life? Share your story in the comments below. Let's celebrate the amazing animals who remind us what unconditional love really means.